Alright, this is actually a pretty good update week. For starters, we have a package from TRSI. We just need to find a sleeve. Wrapping it. And I know usually I begin with I've gotten a bunch of these advertisements in particular, and I know usually I start with the non-anime stuff, but I have a good reason this time, and that's because this package I'm holding right now excuse me, is not anime, but so it's going to be a part of that group of updates. And then of course we've got bigger box, just like so. So why don't we pile these up like so, and then begin with the non-anime stuff. First, let's make sure. Alright. So this is The Legend of Korra, Book 2 Spirits, DVD version. I could get it on Blu-ray. The truth of the matter is I'm mostly interested in watching it, and I want to put it where my other Avatar Last Airbender related stuff is, and that's in basically on the DVD server, and then put onto my streaming server so that I can watch it. So this one I don't feel a pressing need. Thought I'd take a peek inside at least. Although I guess this is non-anime, so it's kind of more than I need to. Then I got Season 2 of Game of Thrones, because we finished Season 1. This is the DVD and Blu-ray version. And then I got Season 3, because Season 3 was cheap, whereas this cost twice as much. And since I didn't know why, I decided it was better to get this now rather than wait. We got the Blu-ray DVD version again. And that's my non-anime stuff. And anime stuff, not only do we have these, but we also have a couple of extra things over here, and another ASM compilation, Hentai, which is, I guess, about threesomes. Oh well. But no, let's take all these anime and put them on the bottom of this pile so we have a nice pile. And this is a good one to start with. This is the new Toradora release. I guess it's the premium edition. As you can see, it has a significantly different form factor from the old Toradora boxes. I get them out, but I guess it's kind of late for that considering I just started the recording already. But the main difference here is that this version has an English dub for it. And I guess we might as well take a look for information on the box itself, which says as much. English, Japanese, and let's see the contents. We've got an advertisement telling us about Cardcaptor Sakura, which is coming up next month, beginning of next month, so about a month from now. We've got an art book that has a different, the black part has a different feel to it. And I don't know how this compares to the art book contents in the older premium edition release, because I never looked at that one in too much detail. Looks like these discs were a little loose. Fortunately, these were the Blu-ray discs, which are going to just simply be more robust. So we've got Blu-ray disc 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then we've got DVDs 1. Notice how DVD 1 also has the same art. 2 has the same art. 3 and 4. So the DVD and Blu-ray discs all have the same art. It's a pretty straightforward but neat background. And that's the new dub release version of Toradora. Let's see. Next up we have something called Photo Kano from Sentai. Oh, I guess I forgot to check, but it says region A only for the Blu-ray. So no A and B stuff. I guess that's no surprise because this is NISA talk about. We've got Photo Kano, which looks a bit more on the ecchi side. This is all 13 episodes. Japanese with English subtitles. And I apologize in advance for any exhaustion. It's just been a busy evening. It's after I record this that I can finally relax for the evening. Pretty straightforward. I'm not familiar with any Blu-ray releases of that coming out. Next up, we've got Yuyushiki, and there is a Blu-ray release coming out for this, and I think Sentai moved it. Yeah, Sentai definitely moved this one to like next month or the month after, because I have not pre-ordered the Blu-ray version because of the delay date. So I think that's fairly notable. As in, it seems like they've been a little bit behind on some of their releases. The DVD versions usually ship just on time. Blu-ray releases do tend to ship a little late. So I think they're taking precautions this time. That would be my guess. This one's Japanese with English subtitles. Not terribly familiar with what this anime will actually be like. I've seen a couple pictures around. Okay. Disc 2, episode 7 to 12. This says includes all 12 episodes, 2 DVD set. So that's Yuyushiki DVD version. We can expect the Blu-ray version in the future. Next up, we've got A Certain Scientific Railgun S, Part 1, episodes 1 through 12. So this would be the first half of the second Railgun season, I guess. And I guess I've had Misaka on the brain since I've known this is coming out. So I guess you could say I'm looking forward to actually watching this. Let's see. This is a Funimation release, but I think like the first one, this one is DVD only. And I didn't see a limited edition version of this as well. I boxed the whole parts 1 and 2 in. Yeah, I don't know if I showed that picture very clearly. The other half is not the whole gang, but a lot of them. 2 simple discs. Nice straightforward release. And of course, as the Funimation release, we've got English stereo and Japanese stereo, so it is English dubbed. Next up, we've got Devil Survivor 2, the animation from Sentai Filmworks. This is actually a very different case than they used before. And I'm not familiar with any Blu-ray version of this. It looks like this is a DVD version. 3 DVD set. All 13 episodes, 3 disc set. Come on. This is being a little frustrating. Not sure how much that helped, though. It felt like it helped. Don't know what to think about this series. Hard to tell from the series itself. Next up, we've got an infamous anime, School Days. This is the complete TV series. If you're not familiar with why it's infamous, I think it's generally considered a bad series, and I have played the video game version. I think the visual novel version. It's not really a novel. It's kind of more of an anime, the game version, which I mentioned as being an interesting reason I explored it, but I never made much progress beyond those first couple of weeks. So I'm familiar enough with the game, and I know based on the game, I'm not surprised by what people say about it. It does sound like it has a pretty weak main, but it has an interesting twist to it. Pretty legendary twist. So if you haven't heard about it, I don't know. It could be one of those animes where you want to surprise yourself, but expect a kind of creepy, unsympathetic main character, I guess. I guess. I don't know for certain. All I know is I've been wanting this to come out on DVD, so I have an excuse to eventually watch it because of my familiarity with it. Now, this is Discotek release. Discotek has... Well, actually, I'm not sure what Discotek has released, and this is interesting. This white insert seems a little out of place, but nothing too bad. I was just noticing that the disc was not rotating very easily in there. Arriving early is Naruto Shippuden DVD set 19. The reason for its early arrival is actually rather simple. Ow. Man. These things are not opening very easily. The reason for its early arrival is simple, because normally I ordered the Viz stuff from Amazon, but Amazon has been unsure when they'd actually have this stuff in stock, so I've been ordering on Right Stuff, who of course sends things as soon as they get them, as far as I know. Next up we got Ringing Bell, which I think was also ordered through Right Stuff. This DVD's getting a little tricky to open. My finger is getting a little numb. I'm actually opening a lot of packages this time. Of course, this isn't one of the normally big distributors. Discotek is this time, so I've got a old-fashioned sticker to remove from the top. At least this is so much easier to do on newer releases than old releases. So we got Ringing Bell. An anime I don't know much about, but good enough. And then last but not least, we've got Star Blazers 2199, $21.99, Volumes 3, Blu-ray and DVD versions. And of course, a stack of DVDs that are getting pretty close to the camera. Let's see. Blu-ray version of this. It says Region A. DVD version. Let's see. We have a disc. An interesting insert, which is talking about October 11th, U.S. Screenplay at Anime Expo 2014. Check other side for more details. And then we got... Is this reopenable? Oh, this is actually already open in the first place. So we've got some postcards, which I don't know much about, since I don't know much about the series itself. I don't remember if the other releases had these, but... And the Blu-ray version has pretty much the same things. The same artwork on the volume, the same insert, the same cards. So it looks like this is intended to mostly be a Blu-ray release, but it's doing a couple of interesting things. So let's see. I guess that's everything I got this week. This is a nice haul, and there's some really awesome stuff in here. Well, I'm not quite sure how much of it I will get to see, but the good news is that I get to come over here and talk about finally something other than X-Files. Other than to say that I finished X-Files, and I guess the second movie is probably the most notable thing, and for some reason I thought the second movie was better. It's second pass, watching it this time than the first. Although a lot of that has more to do with kind of appreciating the sort of position it was in. It didn't do everything perfectly, but it was kind of a nice X-Files reminder. I'd talk about what's coming to mind when I think about just some of the things I like, but I think those are more spoilerific of it, and if none of y'all have seen it, I don't want to spoil it for y'all. But the good news is that happened Sunday. I mean, I've had a really busy week / weekend, so the fact that I was able to finish X-Files is definitely a good thing, because it means on Monday, yes, last night, I got to start watching anime. Now, of course, I had other things to do in preparation for today as well as just generic grocery shopping sort of stuff. But I did start watching Maoyu, which I commented before on the back. It kind of looked like it was maybe similar artwork as Sword Art Online. Now, that's not the reason I chose to watch it. What happened was I need to decide on something to watch. I do have at least a handful of stuff, and I just went for something that was rated high. And I think of the things I picked up, this was rated the highest. I was looking for something to start easing myself back in, I guess. And I suppose after I finish this, I'll probably watch Railgun. But before we get into that, there is the talking about this. And watching it, I'm not sure if character designs or anything about it really have anything to do with anybody that worked on Sword Art Online. Something about it seems off, but I'm not quite sure if that's just because the setting is different. As in, maybe it is the same character designer, and I'm just doing a poor job of actually telling them apart. Or could be somebody completely different, but I haven't quite placed my finger on what's familiar about it. I just know that it looks very familiar. For the content, as in the watching of it, I think I'm halfway through it, and it's actually been pretty interesting. It's somewhat reminiscent of Kyokata Mao, but not quite as naive. It's kind of like if you took Kyokata Mao and mixed it with Spice and Wolf, where it seems like there's some real thought into it, but it's a bit out of place. But it's introducing a sort of a feel-good message sort of in there. I mean, I say sort of because at the same time, it's trying to be realistic about some stuff. And I guess because of that, sometimes it feels like the message conflicts just a little bit, and sometimes it feels a little forced. But it hasn't been anything that makes it unwatchable. It's just really, I don't know. I'm very curious where it's going to go from here, but it hasn't given me any hooks to think that something will majorly happen in these next 6 episodes for sure. And I think a little problem of that is the characters are important, but the series is also still trying to stay aware of the world that these characters are in a bit. So you can kind of feel like the characters are skipped over a bit because some of the things that happened are just things that the main characters do take a lot of time or something like that. So I say that, and that kind of reminds me of some Sword Art Online stuff, but I thought Sword Art Online kind of communicated a lot of important story. It triggered a lot of thought-provoking, this was what the last half year must have been like for them, because Sword Art Online had big jumps in it like that. And so maybe that's evidence that it's related, but I don't know. That was just an afterthought I had while watching it. So I'll finish that, and next up I think I already mentioned I'm going to watch Railgun, because, well, that's probably exactly the kind of thing I want to be watching. Outside of that, I'm trying to think if there's anything anime related to note. It's hard to say because I've been keeping track of things other than anime. So I guess beyond that, yeah, it's probably worthwhile to mention. I mean, because I did watch. I'm only transitioning back into anime now, but you know, Game of Thrones stuff, I don't find anything particularly notable to mention. It's remained at a pretty interesting. I'm curious what'll happen, sort of state. But I think more noteworthy is Edge of Tomorrow, which is a pretty good movie. I mean, I'm not sure if I've ever criticized The Dark Knight Rises on here before, but I kind of did not like The Dark Knight Rises because it felt like the director was forcing a lot of information into the audience's eye. Like, I couldn't experience the movie because the direction of the movie just kept saying, oh, look, here's this thing that you could have just guessed, but we're going to explicitly tell you it or show you it or stuff like that. And if you've watched the movie, you probably have some rough ideas of what you mean. Maybe y'all didn't have a problem with it, but I kind of notice when a show is forcing something like that on me. And Dark Knight Rises, it really bothered me, especially because they did a lot of that in the conclusion of the movie in particular. And it's possible The Dark Knight did that sort of stuff, but I also kind of felt like it was more appropriate in The Dark Knight just because of the kind of villain the Joker was. Now, I mention all of that because Edge of Tomorrow, I feel like is a really good movie because it does the opposite of that. It knows what the audience are probably thinking about. It knows when this scene happens, you'll probably draw a conclusion, you know, this has happened a lot. I'm not sure how much more I want to say about that specifically, but I can say things like the beginning is maybe a good example of that, and that it throws a lot of information at you. It feels kind of overwhelming, but you kind of start getting the gist of it that most of it doesn't really matter. You just pick up small bits and pieces. Okay, meteorite crashed here, something was spreading across Europe, you don't know what, and Tom Cruise is introducing some battle armor they have to increase fighting efficiency. Alright, and that's pretty much all the information you really need at the very beginning of The Edge of Tomorrow. And then where it goes from there, I don't really want to say, but you know, this is just like a beginning of the series news articles montage sort of thing that is disorienting, but at the same time you're like, okay, I don't remember names and places, but okay, I got the general idea, and you're supposed to get the general idea. And again, there's a lot of things that happen in the middle of the movie where they don't explicitly tell you what happens, but you kind of start putting the pieces together. And it knows when it's like, okay, we're going to fill in some details here and details here because there's some interesting things for people to see. And the way it ended, I guess it's kind of, the movie itself is kind of reminiscent of Inception in a way. Where Inception has a lot of thought-provoking concepts. It doesn't exactly explain certain things. It leaves mysteries for you to look at, scratch your head or your beard and say, hey, friend, don't you think that maybe this is what happened there? And what happened at the very end of that movie? You think maybe this is an interpretation, or this is what happened next, or... And that's a movie that actually treats its audience pretty smart and was directed very well. I mean, the only thing that really felt wrong didn't feel that wrong, and that for me that was a part where there was an action scene kind of in an enclosed space, and I couldn't follow what was happening in detail, and that's just really more of a problem of the way modern CGI combat happens in movies, I guess. It's kind of reminiscent of Transformers, except that the problem with Transformers with that stuff is you just can't tell the different parts of robots apart. And I kind of felt a little bit of that at one point in the movie in Edge of Tomorrow, but nothing spectacular. I don't know. And the entire idea actually turned out to be rather clever as well. Okay, so I'm gushing on it. Hopefully I'll be gushing on anime next week. And I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of other stuff because it's been a tiring week or so. So that means more time for anime. I'm not even doing Mario Kart or Monster Hunter or Starbound. I'm kind of taking a breather, which gives me a good chance to watch anime because I just don't feel like watching anything else. I've watched X-Files for 2.5 weeks now, and I'm ready. Alright, so let's go ahead and end it there. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else, so y'all have a nice week.